looks like Jasmine Crockett has popped up again, and this time in the crosshairs of Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi is the United States Attorney General, appointed by Trump and confirmed by Congress. The crazy part about this is it's unnecessary for Jasmine Crockett to be obstructing in the level she is obstructing in, and for the reason she's obstructing it. She need to chill is what I'm trying to say. I mean, what is her message? What is her fight? There is no way that everything that the Republicans are doing is wrong right now, and everything that Joe Biden was doing was right, because she wasn't this loud and vocal when Biden was in office. So I think it's just a little bit much. The part that I'm troubled by the most is that I believe that she is strategically placed there because of us. I don't think that she's talking to white people. I think she's talking directly at black people, but not speaking for black people. And that's the reason that we're gonna go through this interview. Of course, it's MSNBC, but it's preceded by a Fox clip. And let's get into it and kind of see if I can get a better understanding of Jasmine, because I thought I was on track, but now I'm not so sure anymore.
Today, a direct message from Attorney General Pam Bondi to a sitting member of Congress for comments about Elon Musk. Let's take a listen.
Now you have this Congresswoman Crockett who is calling for attacks on Elon Musk on her birthday. Let's take him out on my birthday, she says. Yet she turns and says, oh, I'm not calling for violence. Well, she is an elected public official, and so she needs to tread very carefully, because nothing will happen to Elon Musk, and we're going to fight to protect all of the Tesla owners throughout this country, and it's basic safety.
Joining me now is Texas Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, vice-ranking member on the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform and ranking member of the House Oversight Committee. Congresswoman, pardon me. It's always good to see you, my friend. And I'm going to say, I was looking at you on the monitor while you were listening to Pam Bondi. You seem to be not fazed at all. The Attorney General there, though, is telling you to tread carefully. I'm curious your response, and have some of these protests at Tesla dealerships gone too far?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to say that I participated in a Tesla takedown. That is the name of the website. And it was all about this large protest that they're calling for. And this is a nonviolent protest that they're calling for. And in fact, when I was on there, which is why the Attorney General had to say that I wasn't calling for violence, and it's ridiculous that I even have to say something like that. But because they are trying to twist our words, one of the things that I told people to do is make sure you are adhering to the laws in your area. Make sure you know what it looks like to protest and to be able to raise your voices and to exercise your constitutional right to free speech.
Well, all of this stuff that she's saying right now would have probably been better for her to go in detail prior to putting out some kind of national call to whatever. I mean, you want people to really understand prior to assembling or prior to going to a dealership or a Tesla, whatever she was asking people to do. She should have been in complete detail. Make sure that you have cleared with your city that, you know, if it's more than this many of you, you got to get, or why even do it though? Why? It's such of a bad look for Democrats to have their people in disarray, because they are. There's no way that Democratic supporters can be in line and have their shit together when the Democrat leadership don't have theirs together. So there's absolutely no way that she should be encouraging people to go out into the street in any capacity until the leadership gets their stuff together. And we know why we're being asked to go out into the street. You know, I mean, how can you ask people to go out into the street and then they go out into the street and you got the Attorney General Pam Bondi speaking on it, and you want to kind of be like, oh no, I made sure that I see it. I don't know. That sounds kind of like Donald Trump, hyping everybody up to run into the Capitol, and then after they do, hey, I didn't tell them to do all that. And you can look at it in a number of different ways, and I'm looking at this in that kind of light, like you're encouraging people out of your frustration and out of your loss, and the loss of the Democratic Party and the lostness of the Democratic Party, and now you guys are going to take it out on your constituents, and especially you, Jasmine Crockett, being up there as a black female and never speaking to black issues. Whenever you're speaking to black issues, it's issues that black people happen to have that other people have as well. I hear you lately doing a lot of arguing and fighting over transgender folk as well, and that's so Obama-ish. I mean, when we get in a position, like Obama did, after going through civil rights and everything that black people did post 1865, culminating up to Obama being elected president, and that couldn't be one of them things that you just have to take one for the team and let the white people in the country know they didn't put me here to do nothing for them. And that's what I'm getting out of Jasmine Crockett. They're sheep herders, and then they herd the sheep, and then we go vote and get the Democrats back in power. This is the plan. And then once they get back in power, what do we get? We don't get anything. Just like we didn't get anything when they were in power the last time. So why would we be compelled to support this party? And why would she be compelled to ask us to?
Speech. And what we see is that they want to dull our free speech rights. They want to make sure that those that are participating in the press, because we saw that there have been recent attacks specifically on this news organization, they want y'all to kind of tamp down what you say and hopefully buy into the lies instead of going out there and just telling the truth. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see that Elon Musk, that his money as it relates to Tesla, well, Tesla's tanking right now, and I'm okay with that. So
what difference does it make, though? I mean, Elon Musk works closely with the United States government on other levels, other than his Tesla company. But Space Air, we're going to start sabotaging his missiles. I mean, how far can this go, or should this go, or is it even a thing? Why in the hell is Jasmine Crockett so pissed off at Elon Musk because Donald Trump chose Elon Musk as an advisor? Let me tell you something. The guy came in last time, and the people closest to him was his family. He had Ivanka, her husband, Donald Jr., and that other son of his, I can't remember his name, but they were the closest advisors to him. And I mean, even above government officials who've been around for decades and were real Republicans, and he was taking his family's word over that. But I believe that he learned not to do that shit, because you run the risk of having your family members prosecuted, having to pardon them and things like some folks had to do. So he probably figured, you know what, we made it through the first term, none of my kids got convicted. He pushed them back. So he picks up different advisors. People say Donald Trump is a failed businessman. He doesn't know anything about business. So he goes and gets a guy who is not a failed businessman to advise him. Elon Musk. No one can say Elon Musk is a failed businessman. He isn't. If because of him attaching himself to the Republican Party and getting involved in politics, his company begins to tank, that's different than just being a failed businessman. But anyway, he goes and gets this guy as an advisor. That ain't good enough. Now, because he's the richest man in the world, and they have a plan that's different than what the Democrats' plan is. That's why you have to win an election, so that you don't get caught up in your opponent having a plan you don't like. Because you guys have a plan that he don't like. But right now, it don't really mean much to him because he won. But to mislead and lie as a congresswoman, and not just break bread and say, hey man, we going through some shit in the party, we need to straighten it out, between the upper house and the lower house, between the lower house and the lower house. We got issues. We got things going on. And it ain't only in the federal government. It's across the country. The Democrats need to get it together. There's issues in every state house that need to be ironed out as far as Democrats go. Speak in them terms and let us know how it's going to affect us and what you're going to do to make it affect us and what we're going to benefit from it. Because if we just keep fighting and don't get the benefit, then why are we fighting? Who are we fighting for, and why are we even do it? Why get out the bed if all your fight goes to someone else? If all of our if Martin Luther King had known that all of his fight for the civil rights that he did, his peaceful march, his peaceful approach, whatever he thought was the right thing to do, he did it. Getting up at 4 a.m. and 3 a.m. and not sleeping at night, and all the things that he had to do. If he had known that that was going to end up in a black man being elected, Obama, and not doing anything for black people, not one thing, I wonder what he would feel like. Is that something that, he can get up there and use Martin Luther King's name in his speeches? But he was actually the man in the White House. The stuff that Trump is doing now is the stuff that Obama should have been doing at that moment in time. Just signing executive orders to make things as good for black people as he could, and no one could say that they don't understand it. They might not agree with it, but no one could say they do not understand why that man would be doing that, because that would mean that the civil rights march, the civil rights era culminated in that. But to get in there and have a lackluster presidency as far as black people are concerned, and still to come out of it with so much support for black people, is just a miracle in itself. And then we just keep on trying to duplicate this stuff with folks like Jasmine Crockett right now. And we have to catch on. We have to go in a different direction, and we have to make sure that if we support or continue to support the Democratic Party and they end up in power again, that they're going to have to have some concessions that are exclusive to black people. That has to be our reason for supporting them. We support them exclusively, and they should reciprocate exclusively. We shouldn't have to share our gains with anybody else because we didn't share our history with anybody else. And that's the only thing I'm saying in that regard.
Just in case the slow people listening decide to click this up.
And that's another one. They begin to question your intelligence if you don't agree with them. And it's okay to not agree with them. It's okay to not even be able to see their side of things. It's fine. It is totally fine and normal. Even if you're wrong, it's normal to have your own thought process and your own belief system and your own way of looking at things. And if somebody wants to call you slow or stupid or, oh my God, and they're only telling you something that someone told them.
Later, I just want to say that I have never promoted violence whatsoever, yet I've also never made excuse for those violent actors such as the ones on January 6th. So Pam Bondi, if you have an issue with terrorism, maybe you should talk to your boss about locking back up those guys that he let out that participated in January 6th.
When Pam Bondi, though, says, tread carefully, what does that even mean?
Yeah. All it means is that she's attempting to get me to say, oh, I'm going to be scared and I'm just not going to say anything, because they are willing to literally break the law. I mean, that's what we've seen them do. They are ignoring court orders. They are ignoring what our own laws are. When we look at things such as impoundment.
I just hate to hear them continue to accuse anybody of breaking the law and then in the same breath talk about all of the things that is legal about opening your borders and just allowing it to fill with. I mean, they think things that are illegal are only things that Donald Trump does. Both sides are guilty of all kind of stuff. And until a court rules on these actions that Donald Trump is taking, he is not doing anything illegal. He isn't going to Congress because they ain't asking him to. You're not in the majority, and you're not a Republican, so you shouldn't even be speaking on it. If a Republican in leadership in a majority in either house has a problem with what Donald Trump is doing, they should be on there speaking and not you. You should be speaking from the perspective of a Democrat who lost, and not he's breaking the law. He's breaking the law if the Senate says he is. If the Senate says, whoa, 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 Donald Trump, you can't do that. But they're not, because they don't want to waste his time with him coming to them and asking them for something that they agree with. You good. That's what they're telling him, and that's what they're telling you, and that's what they're telling me. We're good. And they're saying, oh, it's illegal. So he can go there and make them take up a vote and waste his time when the vote's going to come out in his favor. They good. And if they wasn't, those senators would be standing up. Those Congress people would be standing up, and not Jasmine Crockett. I don't know who she's a spokesperson for in that regard, but it is not necessary for her to be calling things illegal that aren't. That's what makes vandalism, violence, and because some people really believe it. Some people really believe what you're telling them. And that's fueling and lending to the opportunity for violence to happen. That's how I feel about it. I think you're not telling people to stay home and be calm and, ride. No, you're telling them to get out into the streets. That's the most dangerous place that you can tell a person, especially a black person, to go, is out in the street protesting. And if you do, you should really understand that it's almost like enacting a war, because that person might not come back home. That person might go out there and get pumped up, hyped up, a part of a crowd, a part of a feeling, and then the police come and kill them. And it can happen, and it does happen. And that's, in my opinion, very irresponsible of Jasmine Crockett to request or require anybody to go out and protest and demonstrate out of their frustration, and risk your life doing it. It's irresponsible.
Things like that. This entire administration is rogue. And this isn't about partisanship. I keep trying to tell people that we are living in the time of good versus evil, right versus wrong.
So what side are you on? You're on the good side and you're on the right side, but you lost the last election. Square that. Make that make sense to us.
And right now, when we are looking at the black letter of the law and they are deciding, I'm just going to ignore it, then they are wrong. That is clear as day. And right now, they are going after anyone who decides that they will challenge them, whether it's the judges that are sitting on the benches, whether it is lawyers that have decided that they were going to represent their clients to the best of their ability, and most of them won against Trump and his administration. Basically, they are trying to get rid of all voices of dissent.
Like most presidents do. Most presidents don't want people around them who are voices of dissent. That's just a natural response. And it's something they keep repeating to make it sound odd, that a guy doesn't want people around him who are negative or not on board with what he's trying to do. That's the normal shit. And there's nothing that's not normal about it. Like, he should be asking for people to come around who oppose his view. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, well, let's pick up on right versus wrong, because a new memo from the Trump administration in part directs the heads of the Justice and Homeland Security departments to seek sanctions against attorneys and law firms who engage in frivolous, unreasonable, and vexatious litigation. I've never used the word vexatious, but there you go, against the United States, or in matters that come before federal agencies. And I remind viewers, you are a trained lawyer. So in your legal expertise, is this memo by President Trump legal?
I mean, listen, he can write as many memos as he wants to write. I mean, a memo is just a memo. But as it relates to the guidance that they are trying to lay out for the Department of Justice, again, this is them going rogue.
The lady asked her, was it legal? Was the memo legal? He can. That's deep. That this lady would even question a memo by a president being legal. It's not a law. He's not enacting. It's a memo. Is his memo legal? But Jasmine Crockett's response just tells us everything we need to know. She didn't say it was illegal. She didn't say no, it's not legal. So she's rambling into something else, and then she's gonna go off on something. But I'm just saying, facts mean something. They really do on both sides. And if we have accepted the fact that Donald Trump is a big old liar, then let's not try to outlie him. Let's try to take it back down to the baseline of the truth and stand on that.
Already have provisions that lay out when someone should be able to go after someone and determine that they are vexatious or determine that they are bringing frivolous lawsuits, and therefore there should be sanctions. That's normal. I mean, listen, I've got plenty of crazies that love to sue, so I completely understand it. I completely agree with it, and ultimately it is up to the judge to determine. But here's the thing: the Trump administration is losing. There are over 100 cases going on right now. And what we see is that we've got people like Attorney General James in New York that is winning. So what did he do in retaliation? He decided that he wanted to strip her of her security clearance. Same thing with Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg was the one that was able to end up making this president a felon by having the audacity to go forward on these 34 felony cases that now he is convicted of. And ultimately, he was convicted by a jury. And he had the opportunity to have terrible lawyers. He's always had terrible lawyers that lose their bar cards. And just so that everybody knows, listen, you can go and Google Rudy Giuliani. He lost his bar card as well as he lost all of his money. I still have all of my bar cards, so I'm going to just put that out there.
Man, you wouldn't believe that she's in the losing party. She's just bragging, and it's unfortunate to have the ability to make people feel like you're winning when you're not, when you use it for evil. If you're not trying to uplift folks and make them feel like, we live to fight another day, and keep them encouraged without lying to them or without making them feel like the other team cheated or the other team are bad guys and the evil won today, but tomorrow there'll be, just be honest with your folks. Just be honest with your folks that the Democratic Party doesn't have a plan for black people. That's not why they lost. They could have a plan for black people and they still would have lost. Taking that on doesn't help them, though. It helps us, but it doesn't help them. That's why they ain't taking it on, because it doesn't benefit them. They want our support, but they don't want to help us. They don't want to support us. It's a two-way street.
So, who knows what will happen if they continue to go down this road. And I do applaud those lawyers that have worked for the Department of Justice and said, you know what, my oath means something. And so I am going to honor that oath, and I am going to leave this office because I will not violate the law. I will not violate my oath. I will hold on to my bar card. And we will see how many people in this Department of Justice are able to maintain their bar cards if they're going to continue to do these rogue things and ignore judges.
Let me ask you about the New York Times, which reports the IRS is preparing to reach an agreement with ICE to help locate immigrants for deportation by handing over, not just verifying, home addresses for people who've been ordered to leave the United States. These are undocumented immigrants who are paying taxes in this country. Is this going to just force more people to live in the shadows?
Is it fair for them to be able to live in this country undocumented when United States citizens have to be? It'd be nice if black men could be undocumented, so they'd be okay with us being here undocumented. Who wants to be documented in this country if you don't have to be? Obviously, those people don't. But for her to sound like it's a legal thing to do, and they're tax paying, contributing, and arguing on their behalf, when the bottom line is they're here illegally. And if they're not, then change the laws. Make them their money in the tax base count, but also document them. We need to know who these people are when they come into the country. You don't just get to sneak into the country, and then once you're incorporated into the United States, then we got to weed you out and figure if you were a good person or a bad person, or why you came, or any of that other kind of stuff. Come from the beginning as a documented individual, and then go from there. But the way this lady is just taking this conversation is just frustrating. It's just so frustrating.
Alex, you can't make this up. I mean, listen, okay, there are those of us that believe in the humanity of things and believe in doing things in due order, okay? But here's the deal. You've painted these people as like the demons. And so it's like, we got to get the
She's talking like she don't know nothing about people being painted as demons. Like that's not nothing in that she could speak on personally in her own color, race, heritage, what have you. She's sitting here acting like she has to speak hypothetically about another race of people, and she has all the information inside her to respond to that firsthand and go further with it, as opposed to even being on that subject right now. Because if we're talking about good and bad and right and wrong, the law has to be followed. And as a lawyer, you should know that that will fall on the side of good. And if you're doing other than that, then you're not being good and you're not being lawful. And you're just, I guess, using your lawyer speech to deceive people instead of just being honest about it and talking to us like adults.
demons that are dangerous and ruining our country out of here, right? But you're going to the IRS. You know why? Because undocumented people have been contributing up to $100 billion in taxes. So now, if you're going to say,
And that's the problem. If they're contributing so much, and if they don't mind contributing to the tax base, then make them U.S. citizens. Congress. That's all we saying. We want them to live amongst us as United States citizens, not undocumented immigrants, not illegal immigrants, and not anything else. Then they are our neighbors. Right now, they're illegal immigrants.
what? And mind you, these people are told that if you are here undocumented, you are still required to pay taxes. And so, guess what? We get up to $100 billion a year in tax revenue from these people. And now you're saying, you know what? Go ahead and violate privacy laws, even though they are trying to contribute to this.
You don't get to do that. I know we've had this talk before, folks, but you don't get to pick the country of your choice and sneak into it and start, rent an apartment and start paying tax and buying food and appliances. And then when they come for you, you say, hey, I'm contributing to your tax base. I haven't broken any laws, other than sneaking in. That's just not the way it works. And they try to make us believe that anybody who doesn't agree with their interpretation of the way things should go, which obviously was voted down in Congress, in a session of Congress, it was brought up, obviously, discussed between both sides, and didn't make it. So you can't make us feel like your bill, because it didn't pass, or your interpretation of the way things should go, are right. The Democrats just don't get it. I mean, the Republicans just don't get it. No, they get it. They didn't like it. Just like you don't like some of their shit. And what you're doing right now is way too tribal. Jasmine Crockett is not going to be out there long. They're burning her fast and hot. She's going to rise up and right back down. Eventually, most black people will catch on. Some black people support her because they like her hair, they like her eyelashes, they like the way she talk. She's fiery. But if you really listen to what she's saying, it's not so fiery. Not at all, really.
country. So guess what? People are going to go into the shadows. That's more money that we're going to lose. And we know that he has no intentions of going to his billionaire buddies to go and get that tax revenue. So this is yet another instance of how incompetent they are. Because if we lose those dollars, remember, undocumented people do not collect on Social Security, but they pay into a system that helps to make sure that we can keep Social Security solvent.
I tell you, I always love our conversations, and this one, yet another one of the books. Thank you very much, Jasmine Crockett. Good to see you.
Yeah, Jasmine Crockett got to dial it in and focus on what she's really trying to do here, because she's all over the place. She's like attacking Elon Musk. You know, I really feel like if she's going to be put out there as an attack dog, they should have consolidated the roles of Maxine Waters, Jim Clyburn, any other. I can't even think of half of them down there, because any of them don't do anything. But they should have consolidated their roles in Congress and give it to Jasmine Crockett to be, so to speak, the attack dog, but more with the black focus. Definitely focused on black issues and black concerns primarily, and incorporate that into a smooth fight for everyone as a congresswoman. I understand that, but you absolutely have to be first and foremost a black fighter, and make that clear on your interviews, and make it clear, you know, why we are going to redo the way we do things within that Democratic Party, why we're going to sit down and talk to them about, you know what, we're not going to support them as in high numbers like we used to. If we hear this from our black leaders, that's the kind of thing we'll follow, because they don't support us in the high numbers we support. Just make it clear and simple, kind of like Trump's reciprocal tax. You know, they tax us at 50% because we're a big old rich country. We're not going to tax them at 25%. We're going to tax them at 50% too. And that's how I feel about the Democratic Party. We're going to support you at 85%, and you're not going to support us back at that high number. In fact, you're going to support us in most cases at 0%. Because whenever you scoop us in with everybody else, you've seen historically, we always end up somehow on the bottom. So for you to scoop us in with everybody else means that's a zero effort on your part. And we figured it out. Thanks, Jasmine Crockett, for opening our eyes and helping us to clarify what the Democrats have in their hearts for us at this particular moment in time of the week. Because it'll change next week, and I think it's getting worse. They are getting desperate. They're falling apart. And it's a party that, if you support still to this day, just stay home and stay safe. Don't risk your life, because they're exaggerating and turning the volume up way higher than it has to be right now, until they figure out what direction they're going to go in. And then they should send people out into the streets within reason and for reasonable causes. But you know how that goes. Like, comment, share, and please subscribe. And we'll see you on the next Black Popcorn. If you made it this far, then hopefully you enjoyed the video. I really would appreciate and do appreciate the support. Hit the subscribe button, and thank you for being a part of the Black Popcorn community.